to this news, I say yes!
Hit it.
Hi, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel where I talk about all the geeky pop culture that I enjoy, and that includes Star Trek, and there has been some exciting Star Trek news that came out today. Yes, the much rumoured, for a long time now, Pike series is going ahead. Variety are reporting that CBS All Access have given a series order to brand new Star Trek series, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, set on the Enterprise. There's not a whole lot of information that's been released at the moment, but what we do know is a first bit of casting news is the obvious ones. It's Ethan Peck is back as Spock, Anson Mount is back as Pike, and I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce her surname, so sorry, but Rebecca Romijn as number one. And it would be their adventures on the USS Enterprise. The article says that Julia McNamara, Executive Vice President and Head of Programming at CBS All Access, says that this new series will be a perfect complement to the franchise, bringing a whole new perspective and a series of adventures to Star Trek. So I don't know about you, but I am very excited about this. For me, Anson Mount's Christopher Pike was the best aspect of Discovery Season 2. He absolutely injected a lot of energy to that series that was possibly lacking in Series 1. So I am very much looking forward to this, seeing more of him. Ethan Peck as well did a fantastic job as Spock in Season 2 of Discovery, so it would be good to see that character develop some more as well. And of course, Una, number one, we didn't see an awful lot from her in Discovery, but I think what we saw made me want to see more. And in fact, probably the best look at her we got was actually in one of the short treks where her and Spock are stuck in a turbo lift, and the kind of what I think she can bring to the character I think is going to be interesting to explore in this series. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Are you? Let me know in the comments below. I had some thoughts about what I kind of want to see in this series as well, and what I want this series to be, because we've got two very different shows running at the moment. This would be the third show. I mean, we've also got, don't forget, the animated shows coming. This is the most Star Trek we've had coming out at once at any one time. We thought in the 90s it was great when we had two Star Trek shows running at any one time. Now we're going to have, 5 running at the same time? That's quite a lot, including the animated ones, of course. And we're spoiled for Star Trek content at the moment, but I think there's a unique opportunity in that to do something different with each one. And the two shows we've got at the moment, Discovery and Picard, are very different from each other, and I like that. I think they complement each other nicely. So I think with this one, we need something that will complement it again, add something new to the mix. So the first thing I want is those two shows are both very serialized, and I would kind of like a move away from that. Now, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I never would have guessed that I would be saying I want Trek to be less serialized, because I am a massive fan of serialized storytelling. However, I think there is something you can get from week to week different adventures as well that we're kind of not getting with Star Trek at the moment. We've had the odd occasional episode which feels like that in Discovery. I'm like the Harry Mudd ones, for instance, kind of felt a little bit like that. And there was the one where they went to the planets where the second episode of last series where they, was it the first, where they went to the New Eden. That was it. That was a good episode that kind of felt like that kind of weekly adventure type thing, even though that did tie into the overall plot arc. And I think I want something like that, something that maybe has the kind of plot arc element in there, but it not be so big and so all-encompassing that you can't have weekly adventures. I want it to be primarily a weekly adventure show with some of the adventures tying into an overall plot arc. Sort of in the way that Enterprise did it. Enterprise gets a lot of flack, I think unfairly. Yeah, it peaked in the latter seasons, but I think if you have something where not every episode is the is so tied into the to the story arc. I think that will massively aid the series and give us something different, which would be nice. On a similar theme, I don't want any universe-threatening antagonists or even a massive war type storyline. Obviously, in the history of Star Trek canon and the timeline, we shouldn't be getting any wars, I don't think, in this period. So that will help us go back to a more weekly thing. But I just don't want something so big. I think one of the problems Discovery had was that it was trying to be, because it was a prequel, it was kind of stepping on the toes of the established story that had already been established for all the other shows of what should have been happening around that period. And they had to, well, they didn't tread very well around it, unfortunately. And so it kind of ended up a little bit of a continuity mess, especially in that first season. So I think one of the ways of getting around that is to not have anything that impacts the universe on such a big scale. Don't have your, massive big wars. Don't have universe-ending threats like, like Control and things like that. Not every season has to have this massive big thing. Make it small, make it personal. Have story arcs by all means, but don't make them massive big story arcs. Keep it small and keep it personal. If it suddenly looked brighter, it's because the battery on my light went and I had to change it, and now it's suddenly a lot brighter. So that's why I might look brighter. And just after I was talking about continuity as well. So the next thing is something I don't want to see from the show, at least in its first season. There's a temptation with prequel shows, especially ones set in the same environment, to maybe bring in older characters. There might be a temptation to bring in a Kirk, a McCoy into this series, and I think that's something they should avoid, especially for the first season. I really want them to use that first season to establish themselves as a character and not bring any more of these iconic characters from the past. I mean, we've got Spock already. I think bringing in Kirk, especially at this early stage, would be too much. I'm not completely against them bringing him in at a later point, maybe season 2, maybe season 3, sort of like they did with Discovery, I suppose. They didn't bring they mentioned Spock, but they didn't bring him in straight away. So maybe they could do something similar where they, leave him till season 2 and 3, and then he maybe has a mission where whatever ship he's posted on has a mission with the Enterprise, and you can have an episode with him then. But I don't think that's something that they should do in the first season. Even with any other characters that we know from the original series, I think leave them for later seasons. I saw a rumor earlier on today that they might have been casting a Uhura. I don't think they should do that now, or McCoy, or any of that at the moment. I just think all those original series characters that aren't Spock should maybe be held back for season 2, 3, etc. Let's concentrate on our core team, our core characters, our new crew, and let's learn about them in the first season. However, I am now going to slightly contradict that by saying that I would like a cameo from a character from another Star Trek series, not the original series. And I'm not the first to suggest this. In fact, Jessie has done a brilliant video on what she wants for the new Pike series. This was before, I think she made hers before it was announced. It was just a rumor, but in that she suggests that T'Pol would be an excellent guest cameo on the series, and I have to absolutely agree. And this is where I take back slightly my last point and say that I think that would be the one cameo I would be wanting to see in the first season of this show. I mean, it just kind of fits with the timeline. Vulcans live a very long time. T'Pol would absolutely still be around at this point, barring any hideous accidents. So it would be good to see her. She didn't quite get the love and the proper character development that she maybe deserved on Enterprise. So it would be good to maybe give her, as an actress, a little bit of extra stuff to work with there as well. And it would just be nice to see it. And, it ties into another era of Star Trek that maybe we hadn't been tying into so far. Because with Picard, we got lots of links to TNG and that kind of era. And Voyager and that kind of era of Trek. With Discovery, we had some ties in with the original series era. It would be nice to get some ties in with the Enterprise era as well. And finally, I want a well-rounded supporting cast as well, a decent crew. But I do want that. But I do think also that the core of the show should be the trio: Spock, Una, and Pike. Those are the trio, which is kind of what we had in the original series. We had Kirk, Spock, and McCoy as the sort of trio. And I think that kind of works. And then you have your other supporting characters, which get highlights here and there, but you don't feel you need to cram them into every single episode or focus on them constantly. Whereas those three, I think, could really make a really interesting show with a focus on them and with some support from some other great characters. And I think how well the show goes is we know those three are good, but they need to be backed up by a good supporting crew as well. So look, that's just a few ideas of what I would like to see from the Pike show. What about you? Are you looking forward to this? Is this exciting you? What's excited you most in terms of Star Trek news, in terms of new series? Is this exciting you more than Picard did when you first heard about it? Forget however you feel about it after it aired, but when you first heard about it and how excited you were, what's this on a level with that? And what do you want to see from this series? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be back for more Star Trek content soon. Thanks a lot. See you soon.